you can lose and learn. But as it relates to this, like that list, like there's no fucking excuse not to get everything done on your list. It's like a blood oath. What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning into the Start Today podcast. I'm your host, Kris Cavallini. Today, as always, we have a superb episode for you all. It is, in fact, our second episode of 2020. In the house, in the studio with me, my good friend, my co-host, entrepreneur, nutrition guru, anti-aging expert, and just overall swell guy, Rick Schaffer.
Oh, what a build-up.
Rick, what's happening?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
Everything good with you, brother?
Yeah, everything's pretty good.
Tough loss this last Sunday.
Oh, it was brutal.
It was brutal, but at the end of the day, you know,
what we talk about, right? Adversity.
Yeah.
And Tom talks about it a lot.
Yeah.
Pretty well spoken, true.
Rick and I both from up north. Some of you guys probably despise the Patriots. You know, that has kind of, I guess, been the thing, right? The popular thing to do the last like 6-7 years. So I'm sure a lot of football fans were pleased to see the Patriots. I call
someone else in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I get it. But you got to respect. I mean, you know, look, winners find a way to fucking win, no matter what, and you should respect that.
There's a lot to learn from that organization.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, the mindset of Bill Belichick is something that just fascinates me at a very, very high level. He's somebody that I look up to in a lot of ways. Somebody that I've studied and, you know, have modeled some of his leadership principles. Because look, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good you are. Doesn't matter, you know, even if you won.
Yeah.
There's always things that
and Kraft
you could have done better and should have done better. Of course, it comes from the top. It's his organization.
It really does.
Obviously, Kraft has done well, billionaire, you know, stud. And that, you know, between Kraft, Belichick, and Brady, I mean, just the mentality there is, you know, forget about being a fan of the organization, fan of the team, fan of the individual. Just if you're a fan of winning, a fan of, you know, having the right, you know, mindset towards success, then, you know, you should, without question, just appreciate and admire the work that these guys have done together over the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
But yeah, today, guys, appreciate you tuning in. We have a Q&A episode for you. All right. It's been a while since we've done this. I wanted to, do a Q&A episode every 5 or so episodes because I get a trillion questions from you guys online, and it's impossible for me to answer everything that, you know, gets shot to me via DM. I try to do my best to help you guys out when I can. But you know, sometimes some of the questions that are asked, like, even if I wanted to respond, it's like a little DM response back, I feel would be doing them a disservice due to the maybe complexity of some of the questions. So I love the opportunity to interact with you guys, to answer your questions. And yeah, like we got these questions from my direct messages on Instagram. I had one on my story earlier, let everybody know we'll be doing this. And we got about four good questions. I got a lot of shit to do today. So I said, let's just go with 4. But wanted to jump right into this. Before we do that, guys, a lot of new listeners, wanted to say welcome. Thank you for your support. To all of our existing listeners, you guys are awesome. It's because of you guys that we have these new listeners coming in. Really, really appreciate the community that we're building. And, you know, we're just getting started with this, guys. So please, and
thank you so much for everybody who reaches out to us and says thank you. Or they see us out on town.
It's the best.
They say stuff. It's pretty awesome.
It's the best. Yeah, guys, you know, obviously we're here to make an impact. We're here to help. We're here to play our part to make the world a better place by, you know, making the individuals within it just stronger, just both physically and mentally. So, you know, if you do get value out of this podcast, if you know, if it's helping you, if it's impacting you in some way, the best thing that you can do to pay it forward to us is refer a friend, tell a friend, share, you know, the podcast on your stories on social media, which a lot of you guys do. You guys would be surprised. You guys would be surprised. I don't think a lot of people really think or recognize how impactful, like, what they're doing and what they think actually is to other people. And I know I used to be like that. I still am like that in a lot of ways, but guys, you know, first of all, it's an awesome thing when you're sharing on your stories, showcasing to, you know, your friends or your followers and such on social media, the fact that not only you're promoting, you know, us, which we appreciate, but the fact that you're promoting personal development, that you're showing that you're putting in the work, the most important work on yourself. Because regardless if, you know, the people who see it end up listening to our podcast, there's, you know, a higher chance than you probably think that, you know, a lot of them might at some point decide that, well, you know what, this person is staying pretty consistent with their personal development. They're obviously making some progress. I've noticed that. Maybe I need to get on that train as well. And that's an awesome thing, guys. It's an awesome thing. So recognize that, you know, when you're on this journey, on this personal development journey, which is never ending, as you learn, as you evolve, as you just become something and someone more, you also accrue a higher sense of responsibility. And that responsibility is to share the knowledge and share the tools and share the insights with other people to where they have the opportunity to level up as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get going, man.
All right.
Question uno.
All right. Here's number one. It says, you may have already addressed this before, but how do you personally prioritize all the responsibilities and goals you have day to day, week to week, etc.? Thank you, Kris. Have a great day. That's from @Doug.Boyd_.
Good question, Doug. This is something I talk about often. I am not 100% sure. Actually, you know what? I think we did an episode on this. I'm going to answer it, but I want to quickly pull this up here. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So guys, the question here is, how do I personally prioritize all the responsibilities and goals that I have day to day, week to week, etc.? In episode 7, how to win the day every day, we went over this in detail. It was a hour episode, really good episode. Probably something everybody, you know, should be listening to, if you haven't, or listening to again, being that we're at the beginning of a new year, got some new shit going on, some new goals. But basically the way that I prioritize all my responsibilities is first of all, like, I recognize that by not prioritizing my responsibilities, a massive percentage of them won't get done or done well.
Right.
So basically I go into every single day and I try, and I wish I was a little more consistent with this. Ideally, I like to write my targets down the day before, all of my targets. Doesn't always happen. I'll always at least have 1 or 2. But if I don't write them down the night before, when I start my work day, before I do any work, I'm going to basically write down the 3 to 5 most important things that I have to do that day. I'm not writing down, 100 things, right? I'm definitely not just doing 3 to 5 things.
Sure.
But some of the things I do don't need to be written down. Like, you don't need to write down the basic shit that you do every day. Sure. But I write down the targets that I have for the day. And when I'm writing those targets, I'm basically thinking to myself, okay, what is the most important thing that I can do today, that I can invest my time and energy into, that will produce the best outcome? Okay. And again, I'm write things down, and then I'm going to review that list to make sure that there's nothing on there that can't be delegated, because I need to delegate as much as I can to free up energy and bandwidth to work on, only things that I can work on my level. But basically I write down my list of targets, and I'll write down also, another helpful thing that I'll do, especially when it's something that, like, maybe I'm not like pumped up to do or like super excited. I'll write down not only what that target is, but why it is important that I do it. And by doing that, that typically kind of changes the feeling or the energy I have towards it. So that I found that to be helpful. And, basically I'm going to write down like a time frame next to it, as far as the time during the day that I'm going to attack that, to whereas I'm just not trying to just haphazardly get to all these things. You have to have systemacy. You have to have a regimen. You have to have structure. So writing a time is super helpful. And then the last thing that I do, as far as my daily tasks are concerned, I'm going to like write down a number next to them as far as the order I'm going to attack them in.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there are times that like I have to do this one thing first due to the fact that like that whatever I need to do on my end needs to be by somebody by this time in the morning.
Yeah.
Normally that's not the case because I don't like to ever be doing work like in the hours leading up to when something is due or I don't like people waiting on me. But normally the first thing that I'll do is the thing I want to do the very least, the hardest thing, the thing that I want to do the very least. I'm going to attack that. I'm going to get it out of the way. And I'm going to do that at the beginning of the day when I have the most energy, because the last thing you want to do is be, you know, like on E or have your tank be very low.
Oh, yeah.
And then at the end of the day, be working on something.
I'll do that tomorrow.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's typically what happens. So, and then I attack the list and I look at that list as being like, this is it. This is not, oh, this is what maybe I'll do today. This is what I'm going to do if, you know, once everything else gets done. This isn't, you know, what I'm going to do if I feel like it. Like that's like it's like an oath. It's like a contract that I make with myself every day. And I realize that if I don't honor my word, if I don't follow through with the commitments that I've made by executing on the items on this list, that I've lost. And that's what it is. There's a game that's a good point out there, man. It's look, every day it is either win or lose. Now, granted, sometimes you can lose and learn, but as it relates to this, like that list, like there's no fucking excuse not to get everything done on your list. It's like a blood oath. And honestly, if you want to win, if you want to succeed, like this is the way you need to think. And I realize it's a little over the top, maybe for, you know, some people, to hear if they're not used to that sort of thing, or some of the younger guys. I know I didn't always think like this, but as I've evolved, I've learned like, look, like success is hard. Like winning at a high level is fucking hard. Like you have to do more than everybody else, and you have to just not do it some of the time. You have to do it all the time. And it's not about winning at the expense of somebody else's loss. It's about winning to just make sure we're living up to our full potential and able to live our best lives.
And I was going to say, I think attacking the thing that's most unlikable is really good advice, because when you do that, it gives you energy, and then you're ready to take on the rest of the day. It just gets you rolling.
Agreed. Agreed. And to add to that, I also want to make sure when I'm doing that thing that, you know, I'm not super pumped up or happy or passionate, to do. I want to make sure that I'm doing it as if I was. I'm going to make sure that like,
well, I think that's the funny thing. Like it's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to make this call, whatever. Then you make it like, all right, that was easy. Let's go. What else we got? Boom.
But we got to be mindful of that. We got to look, all right, maybe we don't love doing this thing, but that doesn't mean we lower the standard. That doesn't mean we lower the bar. That doesn't mean we put any less effort into it as we would with the things that we love doing. And that's the mindset that you need to have. Consistently high standards across the board, whether you feel like it or not, whether you like it or not. And that's just basically how it's done. And, you know, that process that I just laid out for the day to day, that's the same for the week to week. It's just on a higher level. At the beginning of a week, or excuse me, on a Sunday, I will lay out like probably 5 or 6 things, like big things that I'll need to do for the next week. Sometimes it's less. If I have like this week, it's less than that because I have a shit ton of work to do with the transformation challenge. Right. Filming, getting after it. And bro, thank you. You've been fucking lifesaver with that.
Good.
Yeah. Pandering to my high maintenance ass, calling him at like midnight, asking if he can be in early the next morning. I appreciate it. But yeah, this week, I only had two on there. Both have been fulfilled. And, you know, but it's not just I'm doing 2 things. I'm doing all my other things. And the 2 things that I'm doing are extremely important. And there's probably like 20 things under the you know, the one thing, which is the transformation challenge. So same thing, you write targets, and then you basically you basically create your daily targets based off your weekly targets. Yeah. It's a system, man. And that's the thing. Most people, I think, go into it every day without a plan. Yeah. And I think it's important. What he said earlier is you don't have to write down everything. No. Because certain things, like you're not on autopilot, but it's just, they're part of your lifestyle. Yeah. You don't have to write them all down. I mean, in the beginning, yeah, probably. Right. But after a while, all of a sudden now you know the things that you need to write down. Exactly. And just to throw this out there, I didn't start writing either my goals or my targets down, a daily task, like creating a list of shit to do every day. I didn't start doing that at the beginning of 2016. So 4 years ago. 2016 was the year like things really started to happen for me.
I was going to say, ironically, that's when things really kind of turned around.
So there was a lot of things that played into that, but I know that played. I mean, I just became more. I mean, before that, I thought I was just working fucking every hour of every day and all this shit. Yet, like nothing was getting done. There were very little results to show for it. But then when I started doing things more efficiently and more organized, not only did I get more done, it was just less stressful. So let's move on if we could.
Next question says, longtime fan and supporter. I have noticed significant differences in you since your journey in Costa Rica. Your speech patterns, facial expressions, and overall energy has changed in a positive way, which is fascinating to be able to witness happen in front of our eyes in a short period of time. My question is this. I've heard some crazy, dark, disturbing, and at the risk of sounding soft here, scary stories about what takes place during the ayahuasca ceremony. I've researched it a lot and have become more intrigued after hearing people like yourself, Aubrey, Marcus, and Joe Rogan talk about how it helped. But would like to know what the hardest or scariest part for you was, or if you could maybe share some of the darker parts of the journey that people seem to not openly talk about. Thank you for everything. I hope to meet you to tell you that in person one day. That's from John W.
Awesome question, John Dub. Appreciate that. And I also appreciate, the compliments or the observation, I guess, shall we call it, regarding the change or changes within me that you've observed. I definitely feel different. I've definitely also like I've noticed the changes as well. And sometimes,
so have I.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like I become made aware of something like in the moment when I'm in a situation that I used to be conditioned or programmed to act, react, or feel a certain way. It's like all of a sudden I have an awareness now that's no longer there in a positive way that's serving me. Yeah. It's actually pretty fucking cool. Yeah. But his question is, this is a good question, man. And like, this is the part that's not talked about very much. I know that I didn't know about this going into it, and I'm glad that I didn't. I don't really know that it would have mattered or changed anything, but yeah, like, guys, for those of you who don't know, I recently went on a, spiritual retreat to Costa Rica, where I took part in, 4 back-to-back ayahuasca ceremonies. And for those of you guys who don't know what it is, just do a quick Google search. Don't want to go into all that because I just did an episode on it a couple podcasts ago. But basically, during this experience, yeah, you see some pretty crazy, like the way you feel, right? The things that are coming to you, like that in itself is pretty crazy. And people react to the medicine in different ways. Other than the obvious, like, people like vomiting, like crying, like all around you for, anywhere between 8 to 13 hours. That's the time frame to the ceremonies. You do see some other, at one point there's a gentleman who was basically, there's an area outside of the temple, shall we call it, where the ceremony takes place, where you can kind of go and like lay on the grass and look at the sky. And it's just like a separate scene than the actual temple, where you're kind of you're laid on a bed, just kind of relaxed and with pillow and blanket and such. But a gentleman was just basically walking around the courtyard, shall we call it. And every once in a while, he would just every maybe 15 to 30 seconds, just start screaming at the top, like, and then that it kind of evolved and escalated. And at one point he was like, kill me. Jesus. Yeah. And I was actually laying on the ground. I don't know why I wanted to lay on the ground. I wanted to lay on the grass. Something told me to lay on the grass, and I was most comfortable on the grass. And this wasn't very far from me. It's probably about 10 foot away. And it's like, I was aware of what was happening. I was aware of like how horrifying that probably would be to like a more not as mentally strong individual. Like it annoyed me because it was kind of an inconvenience, but it wasn't like terrifying. It's not to me, right. But I also believe that if I wasn't on the medicine, it probably would have been a little more scary because it's kind of a disturbing thing.
Sure.
But what I guess I kind of got myself to in the mind frame of it to accept is the fact that although that sounds like a very negative thing and a horrible thing, like I was happy for him. I was happy for him because I realized what is happening. That's his trauma coming to the surface and exiting his.
True. Yeah.
So he's healing, and I'm grateful, and I tried to take control of my mind at that point when I saw things like that. But I know a lot of other people probably weren't able to do that. And, you would hear like, when you hear people like screaming like randomly like that, you would, when it went on for like long periods of time, you would actually start to hear other people kind of like reacting like with loud, like scared kind of screams to that scream. And it was almost like a symphony at like one point where everyone was just kind of like it's strange because who knows what he was going through at that point? Who knows what he was feeling? Who knows what he was seeing? Who knows what was happening in his world at that point? But to me, I guess I came to a point that I just accepted that everything that was happening was oddly connected in a way that we can't fully understand or explain. So even though it was scary, even though you hear some of these horror stories, I mean, at one point, the last night where they, this was the only night they didn't play music at all. And it also happened to be the longest one was 13 hours. It was also the night that like more people, I swear to God, more people threw up this night than all 3 of the previous nights combined. So there's basically no music, and all you hear is just people just,
and this is the strongest dose.
I'm not really sure if it was, it's different medicine each time. Like this one's from Costa Rica, this one's brought in from Peru.
Oh, it's very personalized, right?
Yeah. Depending on the shaman that's hosting the ceremony. But you hear people like, not only vomiting, but screaming. I mean, at one point, remember this woman like started like speaking in tongues, like loud as shit. I mean, I'm outside. I heard this coming from the temple. And then she started like screaming. And I mean, it sounded like just a horror movie, like times 10 for an hour. And then, like the shamans.
Like being in an insane asylum.
I mean, dude, we're like exactly like that. But usually like when you see like in movies, in a insane asylum, you'll hear screams and stuff. They like come from a distance, like in like an echo from the distance. This is like being like right next to it. Yeah. This was probably 20 foot from me. Like it was right within the walls. I was laying right outside the walls.
And just out of curiosity, when they explained all the side effects that may occur, was paranoia one of them, or is that not really associated?
Paranoia, anxiety, confusion, all these things.
That could be really scary for some people.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what it is. Like these people, like, I mean, you start to hallucinate, and it's not like a hallucination with like mushrooms, where you close your eyes and you see whatever you see. It's like you're hallucinating eyes open, and the hallucinations are kind of meshed in with your reality. So to the untrained mind, that can be a lot to kind of comprehend in the moment. So, naturally, like people who just don't have it all together up there, their natural response is to, and any sort of uncomfortable, that's probably the most significant adversity, like, and just on a whole other level, like they're just afraid. It's like fight or flight, and
that's pretty wild.
Yeah. And it is. And it's like, it's part of it though. So like when, you hear some of these horror stories and disturbing like story, it's part of it. And unfortunately, as it relates to, ayahuasca, which has changed my life. I mean, it's changed my life, and I plan to talk more about it and become an advocate and recommend it to those who I honestly believe it could be beneficial to. It's just like anything, right? Like if you want to get fit, you can't sit on the fucking couch after work and watch, Netflix for 5-6 hours, eat what the fuck you want, you can't do that. You gotta do the work. You got to go to the gym. You have to eat well consistently, right? You have to take care of yourself. As it relates to business, if you want to get a promotion, you have to take on more responsibility. You have to learn the person's job above you and start doing that. Prove that you can do that. And by doing that, you've demonstrated that you're able to contribute more value, and hopefully you're then rewarded with either financial compensation, promotion, both, whatever the case is. All right. But you get there because you do the work.
Yeah.
As it relates to the miracles and just massively powerful breakthroughs that ayahuasca can and will do for your life. The work in this instance is going through these ceremonies, which are hard, which are scary, dealing with all this shit that we're talking about here. Dude, uncomfortable, like times a million.
For hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's the fucking work that is required. But on the other end is, I mean, look, I would have gladly knowing what I know now, I would have put myself through 10 times more of that, knowing how it's impacted me and how much better I am now. So it's just like anything, like you got to do the work. The work comes in all different variations, all different forms. As it relates to ayahuasca, unfortunately, you can't just like drink this medicine, feel awesome, like have an amazing experience, and then you're just changed forever. Like you got to go through the darkness in order to experience the light.
Yeah. And you probably really have to like relive that experience to really understand it to some extent, I would imagine, right?
It's hard to describe. Guys, if anybody's interested in this, you should, and you have Netflix, or maybe it's probably on YouTube as well. There's a documentary that someone recommended to me that I actually watched last week that was really good. It's called The Last Shaman. It's about a kid who he's like mentally disturbed, like suicidal, like just a fucking wreck. And he basically seeks out ayahuasca to heal himself. Apparently he's tried every other thing and just goes to Peru and starts utilizing the medicine. And honestly, guys, whether or not you actually are interested in using ayahuasca or whatever, it's a fucking awesome documentary. And I highly suggest you watch it because it'll just open your mind to, I guess, like
possibility,
the possibility that what we believe is possible. There might be a little more to that.
Yeah. And I've seen some documentaries as well that were equally like just amazing to watch, where people have repressed feelings. Sometimes they don't even know why they hurt.
Most of the time.
Yeah. And ayahuasca in a matter of, 3 days, I think in this one they were just completely transformed. Like they had to be able to release these issues, and
depending on how fucked up you are is like, obviously the more beneficial, longer increments. But like, I mean, provided you're not like crazy fucking deranged, like, institutionalized status, a 4-day ayahuasca journey, which is like a week because they give you like the workups and then the recovery after that. And a 4-day journey like gets it done. Yeah.
So John W., there are some scary points there, but the good outweighs the bad.
It's the work, man. You got to do the fucking work. The work ain't always fun. The work isn't always glorious. The work isn't always comfortable, but it will get you where it is you want to be.
Awesome. All right. Next question. Hey, Kris, I'm an entrepreneur of a multi-million-dollar contracting company, and I'm struggling a bit with leadership, mostly with my temper and natural tendencies to blame other people for not doing what they should be doing. I've lashed out and lost my temper more times than I would like to admit, and it just seems to always make the situation worse. I realize that all the problems I'm having and have had are my fault. From listening to you and reading the books on leadership you have in your company's reading list, but I was wondering, first, if you've ever really lost your temper with any of your team, and what's the worst?
Of course not.
What's the worst thing you've ever done in a situation with someone who works for you that you know you shouldn't have? If you don't mind, I would prefer to be kept anonymous. Thank you, brother. I admire the work you and Rick are doing in the world. Signed, Anonymous.
It's understandable. Yeah. And so yes, I've lost my temper.
Let me say this real quick.
That might shock some of you listening.
Yeah. Let me say this real quick. Yeah. This guy is successful. And what I love about him is he's trying to get better, which I love about people. Like same thing with you.
Inspiring.
When you're always trying to get better, you've got hope. And that's what's awesome about this guy right here.
Yeah. And appreciate him being vulnerable, appreciate him putting something out there that like will help a lot of people, because a lot of people are experiencing these same challenges as it relates to leadership and probably don't want to say anything about it because they think it's abnormal. It's actually very normal.
Very.
It's very normal. It's something everybody goes through and everybody struggles with. And to some degree, you'll always deal with on some level. You just learn, you improve, and, you set your business, the structure and the standard of, individuals that you have within, with your team up to where the leadership issues that, you might have with some of your subordinates, some of your team become more quality.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, of course I've lost my temper. So many times it's unbelievable. Like I used to just, like it doesn't happen as much anymore, although it still does happen. It happens. It happens, most consistently with one person who's been with me a long time, but we also have a long personal history of friendship to where it's almost like, I guess, in the back of my mind, like when in those situations, I kind of like mix like friendship, which is not good. But at the same time, we've just been through so much, and some of the things that I don't want to say I feel comfortable saying to him, like I wouldn't say to other people because I don't have that relationship and that love and that bond, if that makes sense, but it's still not right. But yeah, like, years ago, like when I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and just was just so stressed, just things were just chaos all the fucking time. I was just so stressed. I would react horribly in situations that, again, even though it was a situation where someone, maybe blatantly did something that they shouldn't have done, something that like was like a really bad thing. Like, I should have handled it better. I should have handled it much better. So yeah, like you learn from those mistakes. You learn that, like, look, like if you have a team and people like around you that put you in that state, like it's either one of two things. Like either you haven't done a good job of training them and teaching them and showing them why it's important to do the things that they're required to do the way they're required to do it, or you just don't have the right people. And a lot of times people want to quickly go to, it's hard to find good people. I don't have the right people. Most of the time, your people are better than you think. They're just not mind readers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They need to be trained. They need to be developed. They need to be inspired. They need to understand. They need to feel like they're part of the shit and not just a dispensable piece of the machine. And then, of course, if you have, if you're just hiring people to fill spots and, you're not keeping culture in mind, and, like you might not have the right people. And at that point, it's your responsibility as a leader to do something about that, to get rid of those people. And that's the thing. Like a lot of times people keep problematic team members around a hell of a lot longer than they should. And it causes them a lot of harm and just morale, overall efficiency. If you have somebody who's like negative and just not supportive of the mission or the team, it's going to bring down the other people on the team, and they're not going to be aware of it. They become aware when you remove that person from the equation, then everybody steps up and like more is getting done with less people. And it's like, oh, holy shit, look at that. So look, try not to lose your temper, right? Do better. Like figure out like what the hell is causing you to lose your temper. And when you get in a situation where you feel like you're going to lose your temper, right? Which maybe you start breathing hard, maybe you clench your fist, maybe you start
time out.
Yeah. Just like catch yourself in the moment. Like, ask, all right, how do I look right now? I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to compose myself. I'm going to detach from these feelings, these fake ass feelings that are not mine. Yeah. And I'm going to handle this like a professional. I'm going to handle this the way the more evolved version of myself would.
Yes.
How would the person I look up to, how would they handle the situation? Handle it like that.
And also look at it from this perspective. When you go crazy, I learned a long time ago, I was working, I used to work on movie sets, and I was working on a Chuck Norris movie, and his brother was directing. Some crazy shit happened, and Aaron Norris was the director. He got pissed off and he went friggin' berserk and started kicking shit and knocking stuff over and told he was going to fire everybody. And like, we had to take like a 4-hour break, but so much money and so much time was now lost because he was angry.
Bro. Yeah. And he probably looked like a fucking idiot.
Yes. I mean, I'm sure whatever happened, I can't remember now why he was mad, but I'm sure he had every reason to be mad, but it
no
doesn't,
reason to do
it doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah,
That's the problem. Now I watch Kris, something bad happens and he reaches for a solution rather than anger.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the best position to be in, because if you can do that, you win in every way.
Exactly. And there's a second part of his question here. What was it here? And I don't want to avoid this. What's the worst thing you've ever done in a situation with someone who works for you that you know you shouldn't have? So in 2020 and 2018, I assaulted someone who works for me, for lack of a better term. I don't mean to laugh about it, but basically, what happened, it was an individual who I actually took my team to a seminar in San Diego. I had a speaking event in Las Vegas the day after the seminar ended, flew some of my team that was in San Diego with me private to Vegas. And during the Vegas trip, some things started coming to the surface, about one of the people that were there and some of the things that he was doing. And I heard that he was stealing. I heard that he would be drinking on the job. And this was shocking to me. I was starting to my intuition started to kick in that this guy had some character issues. But back then I didn't trust my intuitions as much as I do now. And I thought that the solution to, like, if somebody's problematic, if somebody, whatever, that I could just do more shit for them and then they would just fucking turn around. And that's not, if somebody has character issues, they have to sort themselves out. Yeah. Like, they end up, when you do nice things for them and you try to help them and try to uplift them, they actually end up resenting you more for it. This was a guy, his like 4th week with our company, got actually put in jail for domestic strangulation.
Wow.
And I didn't, he was part of my team. And I guess I did have some knowledge that he was in a problematic relationship. And I liked the guy at the time. And you know how I am with people, troubled past. Not only did I bail him out, I let him stay with me for a couple of days because he couldn't go back to his place where the shit had went down. And I honestly didn't believe that it went down the way that, and he told me this. He said that this is not what happened. You know, again, and I believed him at the time. I possibly may have reconsidered what could have happened now when this guy's character came out to the surface. But, you know, long story short, we get to you know, Vegas, and it was obvious to me, he'd already started drinking, and I needed him to get up the next morning to basically help with the the setup for the speaking event. So kind of a little rubbed me the wrong way. It had come to my attention that he was asking somebody with us, one of our vendors, if he wanted to get some cocaine. No. Dude. It's look, if you're that blatantly ignorant about things, that says a lot. I mean, if that's on the surface, what's hiding underneath? But making a long story short, I was at a pool party. I was with Kris Gethin and some other people from the industry. And, you know, I was avoiding him all weekend. Basically, I kind of felt bad. And I told one of the guys I was with, hey, why don't you invite him and the other guy, who was with him, tell them to come. They can, you know, join our table, whatever. Just wanted to not make peace, but I wanted to hopefully kind of have him see me for who I was, and not what I was starting to feel he thought, which I think he was in his mind trying to villainize me. Almost this guy's too good to be true. He must be fake. He must be looking to screw people over and all this shit. Just obviously he had a problematic past, problematic mindset. Long story short, you know, he shows up, and then it came to my attention from somebody else was there that some other shit had gone down, and had said some very, very not only derogatory things, but that he was going to put some sort of plan into action that just would have been a huge problem for me and for Nutrition Solutions. And this was told to me at the pool party. I'm having an awesome time. I'm hosting the party, and dude, you know, I couldn't not, at the time I couldn't not respond. So I basically walked up to him. I kicked him in the back of the leg. He was talking to some girl, And, I was like, yeah, we got to talk. And this dude's a big guy, 6'4", 250 jacked. And, automatically he's like, he's pissed off. And I'm like, come here. I was like, did you say, X, Y, and Z? And like, is your plan like to do this? And he basically like looked at me like, very aggressively and started getting denying it and getting very defensive. And I'm like, look, I'm not attacking you. I'm just asking a question because I have no idea why somebody would just make something that crazy up. And I don't know why on earth someone like yourself, who I've done a lot for, I've mentored you, I've taught you, I took you out of jail and let you stay with me, man. I was like, that hurts. And, it was obvious to me at that time, like the way he was handling stuff. He got really like just on edge, and he just kind of like started like bowing up and getting really like, just nervous, angry. You know what I'm saying? And, I basically said, I was like, look, man, like this type of shit, like this is the exact opposite of what I want or need in my life. And I was like, I really don't see a way for us to move forward knowing that like, this is your character. And this is the type of, it's like, I love you. I would have your back again. Da, 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 da. I would snap anybody's neck. I'm like, I've never asked you to do anything like that. I don't even know why you're talking like that. I was like, what I see here is a guy who is, smiling to my face, but maybe is looking for a good place to stick a knife in my back. And he basically, again, he was a lot bigger than me. He kind of like got close to me. He's like, if I was trying to stick a knife anywhere, I'd stick it right here. And he stuck his hand, his palm of his hand, like ball in the fist, like into my chest. And then I responded. I responded, I hit him in the throat and then grabbed his throat, slammed his head against the thing. And, it was like I don't know, concrete, but some sort of very hard surface. And he obviously immediately dropped because he hit hard. I didn't mean to have his head hit against the thing, but, Kris Gethin, it was it was a shit show, bro. Kris ran over with a couple other people, pulled me off. And then, they ended up getting him up. He had a softball in the back of his head. Jeez. Yeah. And look, like, he ended up suing me because of that. So, that's one of those things where, although it was legit self-defense, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it doesn't matter if somebody actually strikes you. It doesn't matter if basically you're allowed to defend yourself if you feel like you're in fear or there's a possibility of harm coming your way. And again, that whole situation could have been avoided. I ended up, he tried to come at me for emotional trauma and all these other fucking things. I think the first, the demand letter or the lawsuit demand letter, they wanted $200,000. And, I was like, yeah, so that's not going to happen. I was like, I literally didn't want to feel like people think they could bully me around. And I knew that it wasn't going to cost anywhere near there, but I basically told my attorneys, I was willing to go all the way and pay them more than I would have to pay him just to not have to pay him, because I knew the type of person he was. Ended up settling for $3,000 at the end. $3,000 was our initial offer. And then $3,000 is what we ended up settling. We literally started at 200. It kept going down and down. This went on for a few months. And then finally $3,000. And then, that was it. But it was still,
so in retrospect, how do you wish you handled it?
Honestly, I have no issues with the way that I handled it. To be completely honest with you, I don't regret it. I obviously wish it could have been avoided, that situation altogether, but being that it couldn't, I just don't know. I don't know that, you can't let people bully you, man. I felt threatened. I felt, not only did I feel disrespected and betrayed and all that, forget all that. I literally felt physically threatened. He was a lot bigger than I was. And, I've never fucking let people get close to me like that or speak to me like that. I think that we all need to, there's a certain level of respect that we have to maintain. And although I certainly don't advocate violence and just getting fined, I was 35 years old. I'm 36 now. Sometimes, man, you have to draw the line and people have to understand that they can't just go around trying to bully people and trying to stab people in the back or trying to intimidate people without repercussion. So hopefully, that taught him a lesson as well. And, that's it. There's no animosity there. There's nothing there. This guy asked the question. First time I thought about that in a long time. Yeah. Hopefully that helps you out there.
Is there anything else you can recall where you like really wish you didn't act a certain way?
Dude, probably like a million different times. I mean, but I try not to hang on to things like that. Just try to do better in the future, man. Not put energy into
and that's
what
a good
I've done.
point. And that should be directed perfectly toward you. Like, don't hang on to whatever's happened in the past. It doesn't matter where you came from. It matters where you're going.
Yeah.
Right?
Own your outcomes, own what happened, recognize what happened, but just do better in the future. Like you can't change it. Learn what you can from it and just do better moving forward.
At least you're trying though, right?
That's it.
I love it. All right. Let's go to the next question. This is the fourth question. It says,
That's the last question.
You have said you like to do 24-hour fasts as part of your routine. I was wondering how you approach the day you decide to fast and how you choose the day and the benefits that come from it. Thanks so much. And this is from @Keegan Kayla.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for asking that. 24-hour fast is something I recently incorporated consistently. I think I might have done my first one about 6 months ago. But it's something I decided to incorporate the entire month of December. The way I choose my day, there was no really system or thought process. I just opted with Sundays because I thought that was just made the most sense for whatever reason. I really probably can't even articulate why. And, I'm always looking to kind of just add tools to my toolbox. And I thought that would be something that could, just help me. And, you've asked what the benefits are. I'll be honest, I'm going to go into the, some of the health benefits, some of the, benefits as it relates to not only health, but our fitness goals. But I want to make it clear that's not why that's not why I did it. I did it for the reps or the impact that would have just on my mind. I mean, anytime you do anything that's uncomfortable or that requires discipline, obviously it's going to have a transcendent effect on our mind. And that's why I went into, that's honestly why I did it, my primary anyway. But, as far as the, health side of things, it's just like your car, right? If your car is running all day, every day, right? The engine's running there's going to be some wear and tear on that, right? You gotta let it, you can't be maxing out your RPMs all the time and expect your engine to operate at optimal levels. Same thing with the body. I think that just by giving our our digestive system, just a little break, just to give them a day off every once in a while. I think that obviously is extremely beneficial, from a health standpoint. As far as the fitness side of things, anytime you fast for 18 to 24 hours or more, I think low end, 18 is where these, positive effects will come in. It's going to improve your insulin sensitivity, right? It's going to also have a positive effect on blood sugar levels. And basically, during a 24-hour fast, glycogen, which is the storage form of carbohydrates, is depleted and insulin is reduced. And basically, this allows the body to burn mostly fat for fuel. So if, you're doing that once a week, that's going to have a significant effect over the sustained long term. Yeah. And the other side of that is this, there might be people that say, oh, well, after the 24-hour fast, what if you just eat everything inside and make up for the previous day's calories? Well, yeah, actually that would probably result in a wash, right? You probably would not have any sort of benefit as it relates to fat loss. The interesting thing is when I break a 24-hour fast, it's normally a very small meal. You're not as intensely hungry as you think you would be. So the following day when I break the fast, because I would normally start fasting, between 6 to 8 p.m. So I wouldn't have my first, meal to break fast until that time the following day. Right. That following day, I'm also not consuming as many calories as I normally would. I might have 2 meals. They'll be bigger meals, but I'm still consuming lower calories than I do on my days where I'm eating 5 meals a day. Right. So it obviously, has a positive effect in overall intake, which we know that the way we lose body fat is to burn more calories than we're consuming. So, that's basically why I do it. It's helpful. Again, it's just another little opportunity. And for me, like 24-hour fast is nothing. That's why I never really talk about it. I'm going to do a 72-hour fast this month. Yeah. Put that out there. But for people like starting out, that's like a little challenge,
Are you just drinking water? Like
nothing? Oh yeah, it's a water fast. That's all I drink is water, nothing else. But I'll put the hydrocharge in the water. Yeah. But yeah, just water. But yeah, for those of you guys who've never done that, look, it's a tool. Use it. If you don't do it every week, maybe just do it once in a while just to get the benefits on your mind. Where you just take command of your mind and just discipline yourself to not eat food for 24 days. Look, if some of you guys 24 hours. If you're someone who thinks, I can't go that long without eating, I'm going to get hangry. My blood sugar is going to get low. Yeah. Let me just tell you that a man once went 382 days, count them, without food.
That's great.
Okay. The guy lost like 300 pounds and he didn't have any adverse health risks.
That's really
and he kept all his weight off. He gained, I think, 17 pounds.
I never heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah. I'll actually send you the link because it's something I revert to often and something I tell people when they're, started dieting. You're like, I'm hungry. The portions are too small. It's like, dude.
But I think at some point you start to become numb to the hunger, right?
Hunger is
really hard.
Is an emotion. It's not a feeling. It's an emotion that we think is a feeling because of our attachment to it. And it's like, it's a mindset. When you set yourself up to like eat for wellness, to look good, to feel good, just to be good, you do it to where when you're eating, you don't really eat to where you get full. And when you're, you don't really eat till you get full and you don't really wait till you get like super hungry to eat. That's the most efficient way to do it to be able to stay consistent and to reduce the risk of overeating. But yeah, if a human being once went 382 days without any food, was able to lose 300 pounds, change his life, not have any health risks. Listen, surely not only can you, do a 24-hour fast, but you can discipline yourself to practice proper portion control, eat the right foods, right? Not overeat, eat a ton of it's just a mindset. And we know things like that are possible. It hopefully will, adjust our perspective and, make us realize that we could all do a little better.
Yeah. And I'll add one thing to that.
Please do.
If your body doesn't have the burden of breaking down food that's coming in and doing a million things with it, it then can actually clean house a little and help detoxify and address other areas that aren't so important as digestion. So
the benefits are extensive. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we appreciate you listening. Love the Q&A format. Again, we'll get back on the saddle with these as far as doing them every 5 episodes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying the podcast. It would really mean a lot to us if you took the time to go on iTunes and leave us a review. I'll be honest. I don't like asking you guys to do that. I don't like having to do that every, however many. I probably should do it more, but I don't like doing it at all. I wish I didn't have to do it. Sadly, people don't realize that that's a thing that they should do to support, to pay it forward and to recognize, that it actually not only makes us feel awesome and help us out in the ego area a bit, but it's also very beneficial.
It's really nice to hear from you guys.
It is. Without question. But beyond that, it actually helps us grow the podcast. It helps us with the people that are searching. It helps us with getting on certain different lists and all that. So it helps us grow, it helps us reach more people, and it helps us do what it is we're here to do, which is make a positive impact on the world and the people in it. So if you guys could please go to iTunes and just take a few minutes to leave a review, it would mean everything to us, and just help us out immeasurably. Crush it this week. Hey, stay on it. It's what's today? Today's the 10th, so 11th, 12th, 13th. So when this podcast drops, it'll be the 13th. statistically speaking, 2 days from now, that's when 95% of the weak ones would have dropped off and quit their New Year's resolutions. Guys.
Oh, but not you guys.
No, fuck no. Like, don't disregard that shit. Like, you see other people doing it. That is not like an indication or a cue or a pass that you can do it as well. Stay on it. Stay committed, go hard. When things, get hard, get uncertain, just remember why you started in the first place. And instead of being like everybody else, recognize by not doing what everybody else does, you have the potential and opportunity to inspire others who, might be thinking about quitting, thinking about getting, off the path.
Get back on.
Yeah. To get right fucking back on and do exactly what they're supposed to do. So do the right thing, guys. Make me proud, and we'll see you soon.